There we go.
Okay, so the official part, we're here at Adiaha's Bluegrass camp, and I gathered all of you together because it's like a meeting of people of very different backgrounds on the ground of the same music. And I was interested in how the music travels between the States and Europe, and how it has traveled and how it's doing now. So that's kind of the idea that I wanted to talk about. And I'm gonna start just with this simple question: how did you get into bluegrass in the place where you grew up in, and why? So maybe Radim, you want to start it off just by briefly explaining that.
Well, I was born in the former Czechoslovakia, which was a communist country, and we know what was that about. And I liked music. I started playing guitar, playing folk songs, and then we could hear some Czech bands playing country music, and perhaps copies of the country music of American bands with Czech lyrics. There was a band called the Greenhorns, Zahnachi, and I remember since the second grade, third grade, I just liked the music. So as soon as I could play the guitar, I was trying to play those songs. And later on I switched to the mandolin because there are many guitar players. So in order to have a fuller sound, I like to use the mandolin. And I think when I was about 16, I heard my first bluegrass band. Again, it was a Czech bluegrass band playing copies of American bluegrass, and immediately I loved it. The energy, the drive, and they had a mandolin. So I was intrigued by the fast playing, by the speed. Of course, I could not do it then, but I said, oh, I'd love to try it, I'd love to do it one day, so I worked very hard on it. And sort of followed that. Eventually I became a member of a bluegrass band, and they provided me with some copies of American bands. And I was learning basically by ear from the sources. And it was just a great time. I think part of the reason why bluegrass was so popular in Czechoslovakia, because it was the music of the free West. It was so difficult to get recordings, get some information, instruments, so we were eager to learn anything and to find out anything about it.
Right, right. Is that an experience you shared also growing up?
I think it's very similar, except I'm younger. That means I mostly got this information from my father, who listening actually like tramp music, which was some of mix of swing and country music and also bluegrass and folk music. That was something that inspired me. I heard the banjo in some recording from Czech band which played the tramp music. That was probably what I heard, but I also heard for first time real bluegrass when I'm 16 year old, because I started with, there was a Velvet Revolution when I was 12 actually. And after that, I immediately started visiting a Boy Scout club. And our boss, he was a fan of bluegrass. I heard the first real bluegrass in Boy Scout. That's really pushed me away, and I immediately loved the sound of the banjo actually, and started thinking about the music. But probably we have similar experience.
This band, the Greenhorns, I heard about that one already. When was the time period when this band was active?
I think they started in the late 60s, and in a way they play to today, but I remember like in 72 they had a very strong LP came out, and those were, covers like songs of Johnny Cash and Chris Christopherson and other American, country stars with Czech lyrics and good stories, and songs like, Folsom Prison Blues, and Jesse James, and when Papa played the dobro and others, and those songs are sang till today at the Czech jam sessions in Czech Republic, Slovakia, and also in Czech communities around the world.
Mm-hmm. All right. So how much did it matter that probably a lot of like rock and roll or other Western pop music wasn't as readily available to you as probably?
I think it was the same. I was always leaning more towards some acoustic music. I think my friends who were more into rock or rock and roll and later disco, they were in a similar way, trying to get the the sources from the underground, or pirate copies of all the cassette tapes and LPs. And so I was in the sort of acoustic world of country, folk, and bluegrass.
Right. And how did this change after '89? Probably on Radim, you want to chime in, telling this story a little bit?
Well, I don't know if the Velvet Revolution played a huge role in like my way to this kind of music. Maybe it's not that obvious, but I'm even younger than these two, and I call myself a part of the digital generation already, because I was 6 when MP3 was invented. So I basically skipped the phase of the old tapes and vinyl records and everything. So my first bluegrass was from CD already. But of course we did a lot of piracy, like MP3s and tapes and everything from the start, because it wasn't that easy to get the recordings. It was already, they were available, but they were pretty expensive, like for a teenager. So we really like shared, like, you know, the music. Yeah, but basically after the Velvet Revolution, we got access to almost every source that was available, both like instruments from western part of the world, instructional materials, of course, records. It was finally, you know, available for us to travel. So it changed a lot. Maybe not for me, because I was 5 when the revolution took place.
And in terms of playing, learning how to play, and also playing with other people, what was the situation like when you grew up, or when you originally got into bluegrass?
I mean,
how did you find people to play with, and where from?
My uncle, well, I started classical violin in music school, then I discovered guitar, that I can actually play and sing together, and I can play wherever I want. It was very tempting, so people, they were, you know, hidden for many years. But I started to play some folk songs, rather I would like to say like modern folk, not a traditional folk, but we have a huge scene for modern folk artists, singers, songwriter stuff. So this is how I started with finger picking. And then my uncle, who taught me a few chords, he brought, because at the folk festivals, there were some of the bluegrass bands were also part of the lineups. So he bought a record from a band called Coppo, C-O-P, and this is very popular as well. This is like the new Greenhorns, I would say. They make a huge, they do a great job by promoting bluegrass also in some other places, like in folk festivals and others. So this is how I got, and of course these recordings were available to many people, and yeah, when I was 15, somebody told me in the school that, hey, they are forming a bluegrass band, and I was like 1 year into bluegrass, or no kidding, really? So yeah, I was lucky at the right spot, because not many young people are, you know, playing this kind of music, but yeah, I was kind of lucky.
Martino, what was your experience? I don't know when you originally got into bluegrass, and also it's probably not the most obvious choice for somebody living in Genoa.
That's right. Well, I was playing guitar, acoustic guitar, and I fell in love with the sound of acoustic music. So I was doing mostly like folk singers like Bob Dylan, Neil Young. And a friend of mine at some point gave me a record of the Nitty Gritty Band, which was not a circle, it was Uncle Charlie. But he had banjo and fiddle and mandolin. And I said, wow, I like this. This is a sound that I would like to duplicate, to play this kind of music. And soon after, another friend gave me a Newgrass Revival LP. And that was the beginning of the end. When I listened to them, I said, this is what I want to do. So I was playing guitar, and we were in a band with 3 guitars and a bass. And our bass player, one night in a rehearsal room, there was an old, shitty, old mandolin hanging on the wall, Italian made. And he grabbed it and he gave it to me and said, look, we got too many guitars here. Try this one. I had no idea where to put my fingers on this, you know, old with a tiny fretboard. And so I started listening to records, trying to figure out the chords, the scales. And after a while I found out this incredible book by Jack Tuttle, Bluegrass Mandolin, which it took me like 6 months to get it in Italy. They ordered in a tiny little shop, and after 6 months finally the book came, and it was like opening, you know, a window to a new world. It was discovering all this fascinating world of scales, chords, songs, tunes, mandolin players, blah blah blah.
Right.
And at about the same time, I was lucky that in Genoa, Silvio Ferretti and Beppe Gambetta had already started Red Wine, and they invited me to join the band in 1981. So I had access to, you know, Silvio's record collection is a huge collection of LPs, and Beppe as well. So I was lucky to be in the same town with these guys, and I grew up with them. And still, you know, I had to learn a lot from them, but it was the start.
Right, so the Bluegrass revival initiation was somehow in the late 70s, something about that?
Yeah, I would say like 79, 80, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then I went back and find the traditional, more traditional music. So from the Bluegrass revival, the next step was Southern Scene, Country Gentlemen, Flannis Brooks, Ross Stanley, Bill, something like that.
Yeah, well, it's always go backwards.
I always
So something that they go.
I did the opposite of Silvio. Silvio started with Pete Seeger, and from Pete Seeger he went on to Bluegrass Revival, so we kind of met in the middle. My school pals, my friends, they didn't know nothing about this music, so they thought I was, you know, crazy. And at the beginning I thought I was crazy as well, you know, until I found someone else who had the same disease. And that was great, because I found, oh, okay, so I'm not the only one to like this kind of music.
So your
it was a
pal
wonderful
was Silvio. And
yeah, Silvio and some other friends. Before I was playing in another band with these friends of mine that were into the folk acoustic music. And then, of course, when I found Silvio and Beppe and joined them, it was even more, you know, okay, so let's get serious now.
Right. And like John, please also give us a short introduction and how you then discovered that there's bluegrass to be played in Europe as well.
Well, when I started playing guitar, I was trying to learn John Denver songs, and then some friends of mine had a mutual friend who was a banjo player, and they said, well, he plays music and you play music, you guys should know each other. And I didn't even know what bluegrass was called. I just thought it was that fast banjo picking stuff that you'd see on Hee-Haw. And but I met this guy, and like a lot of us, was just instantly smitten by the sound of the banjo and the beat and the drive. And so I jumped in feet first and spent the next 15 years just studying the music and just learning, you know, doing the same thing, you know, learning about Bill Monroe and Platt Scruggs and Stanley Brothers. And but I first started coming over to Europe, I think it was 2002. David Greer, I still am in a duo with a guy by the name of Ben Winship. And when we actually just mandolin guitar, and when we want to sound good, we have a bass player with us. And David Greer gave us a recommendation to Shetland Folk Festival. And so we got hired and went over to Shetland, flew to Scotland, and then up to Aberdeen and took a ferry across to Lerwick. And that was my first experience of going overseas. I've been to Canada a few times by then, but it was so much fun. I wanted to come back, and as a banjo player, lived in Bath, England, a guy named Leon Hunt that I was friends with, and he said that the guy named John Moore, who is a guitar and mandolin player, was supposed to be teaching at Sore Fingers, the school in England, but he was trying to get out of it because his wife was going to have a baby, and he was looking for a replacement. So I called up John, and he said, yeah, it is. I'll put in a good word for it. So I ended up going to Sore Fingers, And I've been there 8 times, I think, now. But it was because of also John Moore, I started coming over to the European continent, because John is a horse trainer, goes to Scandinavia a lot, and he knew Thomas. And so John asked me one time if I had a couple weeks off in April to go over to Germany and tour, and I had nothing better going on. So I came over here at Thomas and Hertha, and now I have my own wing in our home.
It's the West Wing.
Yeah.
Right. But also, I think that the first time you were also here as the John Lowell Band with Julie Elkins
Right.
and Tom Murphy.
Right.
When did that come about?
Well, that happened because Leon and Ben Winship and a guy by the name of Ben Summers, who's also British, were over here, and Walter Fuchs, who used to run the festival in Boone, wanted us to come over and play, and I asked all those other guys, and they said, yeah, sure. And then after we committed, Leon developed some sort of weird skin eczema, where his skin was peeling off his hands. He had to quit playing banjo for a while. And Ben discovered he had some sort of family commitment, and I'd already given my word to Walter Fuchs, so I had to come up with something else. So Thomas and I hatched this plan to bring over Julie and Tom, and for lack of a better name, we called it the John Lowell Band. You know, band names are hard to come up with.
I know. When was that?
Certainly. As I was growing up, also same as Richard, I was part of a Boy Scout troop, and since I was about 12, and remember there I met some older friends who told me more about the political situation in the Czechoslovakia and the Russian invasion in '69. Until then I didn't know as much about it and didn't connect the dots, but you know, when you're 12, 13, you start thinking about more about the world. And I also discovered that many people have left, have escaped the country to the west, and I made a decision, okay, I'm going to go as well when I can. Originally I was heading for Canada, because there was a country which had a good reputation in the world and peaceful. I was more into nature and hiking, but then once I got more involved in music, I found out that there's much of a bigger music scene in the States than Canada. So when I was 18, I said, okay, I'll go to the United States for the bluegrass and for more music. And so I was just waiting for the opportunity, and it came in the summer of '89. So I left and lived in the Bay Area, which those days was like the sort of mandolin mecca, you know, mecca of modern mandolin. David Grisman was there, Mike Marshall, John Reichman, Dix Bruce, Bob Alec, you know, and you know, half a dozen of other players. And then 4 months later, you know, there was the fall of the Berlin Wall and the end of the Cold War era. But I was still happy where I was with the music and free country. And I was extremely glad that I could go back to visit my homeland.
Right.
So
But
I wouldn't have been able otherwise.
your original decision wasn't really prompted first and foremost by music, but rather by the political situation.
Yes,
Right.
yes. But I was young.
Right.
It was pretty much before I played music seriously. So.
And also, but did you feel political repression personally, or also because of what you were doing as a young person, or just was it more like a feeling?
I certainly felt some limitations, but you know, there were other people who felt real hardship, life-threatening, you know, even threats of death threats and stuff from the Secret Service of the Communist Party. So you know, I was younger, so but yeah, you feel the limitations. You cannot travel, you cannot say what you think, you cannot write what you think. You know, so you know, that stuff.
Right, but just to get back to this little thing that somebody once told me that probably bluegrass, being also a largely instrumental music and many things, flew under the radar of the authority.
Absolutely, I think it might have been even me. we were in our class a few years ago. Yeah, there was a specific situation that I was recording with my band Turquoise in a in a radio station, and we had one song, and they said it's okay. There was always a big process of approving the lyrics, and then we had another song, and it was actually a love song, but they were suspected it has a double meaning. And that time there was some Russian politician visiting the Czech Republic, and they just came up with this crazy story that it's reflecting on that, and you know, we were trying to send a secret message. So they said, no, that song cannot go, so you know, you can do an instrumental bit. So we did, so no lyrics, so it was safer to play the instrumental music, yes. There was a big era of censorship.
And sometimes very irrational, as you everybody sees. Yeah. But Richard, you crossed over after the wall fell, right?
Yeah.
So you
My
have a little
story is
different.
Yeah. Because I started to play banjo after revolution. That's mean for me it was a freedom. And when I started playing with band, we call it 29 strings. That was immediately idea how we can go to US, because it was like a dream for us, like go to country where everything born for this music. That's mean we're dreaming about that, and actually everything changed for me in 2002 when Henry Novak called me from US actually with information that their banjo player will left the band after tour, because that time they already touring in the US. And he called me probably from the middle of the tour that they got the information that banjo player would quit the band after the tour, and he gave me information that they would like to choose me for the future and give me all information what I need to do. But yeah, when they came back, we started practice, and 2003 was my first visit in the US. That was super good, prepared the tour and everything. Martino know about this stuff because they're touring before the Fragment there, I think.
Yeah, we met in 1995.
That's mean, and I've been there 2003 for first time. That's mean they already touring in the US, and for me was like everything is changed. But after that, our singer, she stayed in the US, and actually the band quit for a little bit. And I started thinking like, yeah, I would like to go back. And in 2006, I started to play with few US bands, and I moving there, moving back, and then I'm thinking like, yeah, I would like to really move there. And I go for that big process for visa and everything, because that's so hard to probably nobody understand that if you're not trying, because it's really like a big step for us to ask for all that process. You need to have a guarantee and everything for visa. This means I did that process, and I got the visa for 3 years, and I actually moved there and been there actually twice for a year. Actually, I'm not stay for 3 years, but twice for a year. And I mean, yeah, that's something what I dreamed about, but I'm back because it's not that easy living there, because it's completely different life. If you're touring, you have everything done, a schedule is prepared, car is waiting, and you can travel. But if you would like to live there, that's really completely different style of life. You need to really care about everything, and that's mean that was so difficult for me that I was really enthusiastic when we finished the tour, and you know, I would like to be back because it was easy life for me actually. Like everything is prepared, and you can travel, and I mean, enjoy music, enjoy the jam sessions and people, but then when you really would like to live there, it's a reality.
Right. Where were you based in the States?
Actually, I live close to Nashville first year. That was in Murfreesboro, which is 20 minutes from Nashville. And another year I live in Knoxville.
Okay.
Tennessee, still in the Tennessee.
Yeah. And how did you also do the visa?
We already had that process with the Fragment. This means I know that we ask in the agency, special agency in the US, which working for musicians. That means I ask them also by myself, and I can say mostly everything is about the money. If you pay them, they can do their job. That's
sure.
The process was pretty expensive actually, but I did that, and also I asked my friends in the US if they can be my guarantee and stuff like that. I mean, that's probably another story how to go there. But
Yeah.
the point is, I tried. I was lucky that I had enough friends from that time with Fragment. That means they tried to help me, and I played with a few of them. I was also lucky. That means it's something like I've been on the right place in the right time. That means, yeah.
And in terms of getting jobs, like, I don't know, gigs and our studio jobs, things
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that.
There's also some limitation, because if you have working visa for music, you can only do music in US. You cannot go and work in grocery store. You must do music. That means that was on the beginning. I was a little bit worried because I tried to find a job as a musician, and it's so difficult because they have so many great banjo players, and why they will choose the Slovakian crazy guy who came to US. That means that was sometimes hard to thinking how I get a job, but again I was lucky because I had friends. That means they hire me, play with a few shows. First year I played with Valerie Smith and Liberty Pike. That was like a full-time job for me. That was super good. They also tried to help me. And from that time, I met Jonathan Mayness. He helped me then with visa and everything. That means I played a little bit with them. And actually, 2016, I got a call from Dale and Bradley, and that was something what also helped me staying in the US.
Right.
But it's very difficult for not I can say not American guy who would like to play there, because also, I mean, probably I have still a little problem with the English. You know, English is not my native language. This means sometimes it was so funny to travel with Americans, because they said a joke, and I'm not only one person who's not laughing, because I don't understand the meaning. You know, I understand what they said, but for me it was nothing to laugh. That was so funny to travel with American musicians, because so many stories. But yeah.
We recorded a tape, sent the tape to IDMA, and they choose us for a showcase in 1995. And that's when I met Fragment for the first time. They were showcasing at the same occasion, the same conference. And IDMA in those days was in Owensboro. So that was how we started to cross over. We went there showcasing, and we asked IDMA, in those days Dan Hayes was the chief executive director. He helped us to find some other small gigs. So we played like maybe 5 or 6 gigs, something around the IDMA. And then we got in touch with what has been our booking agent for over 25 years, Mike Drudge. And so almost every year we came back for a small tour. It was usually no more than 2 weeks, sometimes 3 weeks, but usually it was 2 weeks tour a year. Yeah, the longest.
Just the size of the scene in the country is much larger in the States, of course. Do you have any opinions on that, and how did you experience it in your own personal career?
You mean how were they accepting us as foreigners?
Exactly.
I was probably very lucky, or I was very welcoming. It was, I think, because of the music. Especially San Francisco Bay Area is very sort of cosmopolitan, and it was a really special world. I sort of met David Grisman in a sort of symbolic way. In my second week in the United States, I went to the concert of Bill Monroe and the Bluegrass Boys. It was in August of '89 at the Great American Music Hall in San Francisco, and David Grisman was there in the audience. And so I introduced myself to him and told him about my story, that I play mandolin, that I like his music, and that I just came from Czechoslovakia, and he invited me over to his house in a few days for a visit, and so we met, we talked a lot, we listened to recordings, we jammed, and it sort of started a special relationship and a friendship. And he invited me to play with him as a guest at the Strawberry Music Festival the next week, and introduced me to a bunch of many players from the Bay Area. And then I met with Mike Marshall and other mandolin players, and later on, you know, other players of other instruments. And I have to say, everybody was very kind, very welcoming, supportive. It was really special. So who knows? Might have been a different story if it was in a different state, if it was in Nashville, maybe even more in the outskirts, like in Dakota. But who knows? I cannot tell. But I just the best experience.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, John, you're based in Montana, right?
Right.
So it's not like the first state I think about when I think about bluegrass, to be honest.
Me neither.
But
Well, yeah, they are connected, but I think the musical taste, you know, if you take, you know, Stanley Brother tradition, you know, what's known as traditional music these days, and then you have, you know, people like infamous string dusters, for instance, you know, let's use them on both ends of the spectrum. I think people in the southern part of the United States are more what you'd call bluegrass fans and much more narrow-minded about what they will accept as what they accept as bluegrass. Further west you go, the more open-minded people get. Would you find that to be true?
Yeah. That was sort of my point in a way.
Yeah.
Could have been that way.
They're more music fans,
Yeah.
acoustic music fans, the
Yeah.
further west you go. And Montana counts as that. But that's not to say I have some friends that I've known for 40+ years in Montana that would be I'd call them very traditional. I mean, that's all they play is Jimmy Martin. That's their big thing. They like Jimmy Martin songs. But I also know several people in Montana that, you know, push the envelope, and I have some friends, and well, Ben Winship's one of them. When I met him and the guys he was playing with, he was playing in a band called Loose Tides that they had bluegrass instrumentation, but they played Janis Joplin songs and Sting songs, and they really opened my eyes to this. Like, man, there's a lot more out there than just Ralph Stanley. So, does that answer your question?
sure.
I was gonna say bluegrass was still the common thread. You know, that was the point
Yeah.
of departure, and the old music. You know, all the players were experiencing bluegrass, and they went to other genres, swing or Latin or classical, but they were all still very versed and based in bluegrass. So I think that's, you know, not to be omitted from this.
All right.
Yeah, I agree.
But as European musicians crossing over, what do you think you bring to the table musically, and how does it probably differ from what's considered the mainstream in the States?
It's your turn.
Well, I actually don't know. For me, it was completely. I mean, I also was like a little bit blind when I started, you know, and if you're meaning what in the U.S., like if I bring something mine, and what are people thinking, or what was it actually, what did you mean?
Well, what basically just from what you bring musically, probably just your musical sensibilities, the types of songs you like to play.
Okay, it's about us right now.
Yeah.
That's mean, on the beginning, really I was thinking only about the like a banjo and really like do a correct way, but after that, when you start to thinking about the instrument, because beginning is very difficult. You have like, for me, like I'm cello player, but then I found the banjo and I was thinking like this is instrument for me. But I try to really like pushing everything and be like a banjo player, but then you found it's an instrument, and you start thinking like, okay, what I can do with this instrument, and you start thinking about yourself. That's mean, for me it was like I probably grow with the banjo, because on the beginning I tried to pushing everything and play so hard, and then I start thinking, oh, this is also can make some emotional things. It's mean, like right now I thinking about the banjo as an instrument, and I actually can I mean, probably I hope I can play any kind of music, and especially my inspiration is coming from Slovak traditional music. That's what I feel it inside. Because we try to be bluegrass musicians, but for us it's a completely different genre because we not grow in that like grooving and everything, and the family situation, because for us we're not singing in the families, you know, it's completely different. They sing in the church and singing in the families, and you know, but for me it was something what I try to learn still and try to find the correct groove which have Americans band. That means I also start thinking like how I can put myself in that music, and for me it was something what I'm still hearing, because I listened to that music when I was a child, also some Slovak traditional music. That means something what I feel it, and I try to mix right now a little bit, but still I really would like to be a good groovy banjo player, of course, because that's something what I really love, but still I start thinking that's something what open in my mind.
I think as a European, I would love to try is to play this music and put in some of your own flavor, something of your own, like Richard was saying, some personal attitude, some personal, which could be your background music, which could be your personal sensibility towards some specific music which is not bluegrass, like John was saying. We can play sting music, arrange any songwriter music in this context, and try to be different. What I found out is if you want to be successful, and Radim is a clear example, if you want to be successful in that market, you have to establish yourself as something unique and different from all the rest of the business bands that are traveling in the States, because you cannot play bluegrass like they do. You will fail miserably every time. You have to do it differently. And so in our small little world, that's what we're still trying to do.
But what part is it? Is there really still this dividing line going on?
It's like Richard was saying, is the singing together, is the language barrier is also something. When you sing together with, when I sing with John, it's different than when I sing with Silvio or with some Italian, you know. And
Yeah, same here. When I sing harmony to you, I find myself matching the way you pronounce words.
So, and that's one issue. But then the groove, the rhythm that they have, I mean, you could imitate, you can reach a high level, and you know, we have a great example of European musicians who can really play that groove. But then again, like Richard was saying, they have plenty of these bands up there. There are kids, 12 years old kids, that are playing banjo, mandolin, guitar like you wouldn't believe it. So what's the point? You will never be as tight and as good as one who's growing up in that context. And since 4 years old, your parents will take you to a festival, so you sit around with musicians and you absorb like a sponge the music since you're 4 years old, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, being European and playing this music in the States means you have to bring something new, bring something of our culture, of our background in some way to be different, to look for uniqueness, something like this.
Is it still nailed to this Southern identity, American identity?
Not so much. I mean, I know very few people who were born in a little cabin home on the hill. You know, they're mostly, you know, suburbanites. Or, I don't know. I agree with Martino that it doesn't matter if you're from Italy or the Czech Republic or Germany or Slovakia. You have to do something, or the States. You have to do something different, because there's, even though bluegrass is a little niche market in relation to all the other genres, there's still a lot of bluegrass pickers out there, and to say 12-year-old kids that are just blazing hot, and so you got to do something. Whether it's, you know, write your own stuff, come from another country and infuse your culture, I mean, that counts, you know, play sting songs, you know, something. But, yeah, I don't know, I think a lot of the Canadian bands that I know, they seem to have, I don't know if this is off topic or not, but, I mean, they're right next door to the States, and they seem to have this inferiority complex that they're just like a little bit substandard. I mean, I just like, get with it, man, you guys are hot and great. So I think there may be a thing that, you know, if you're not from Kentucky, yeah, you're at a disadvantage, but I think that's misplaced.
Sure.
I was going to say, I think Martino is very modest, you know, but the band sound great, you sound great, you know, certainly have it in you. But I'm sort of thinking that the bluegrass is like a learning language, you know, the thing we learn and then we take it from there. I remember that, you know, after arriving to the United States, I was actively looking for something which hasn't been done, but it's also, I guess, my personality, you know. So I've learned the bluegrass, now I use the tools of basically playing the mandolin and the technique and to create some things. And first I was interested in more modern sort of music. I had the CD Galactic mandolin and others. But then it was interesting that a lot of Americans, you know, fans and also musicians asked me for the traditional music of Czechoslovakia, because that's where I came from. And I have to say, that time I didn't consider playing it. You know, I knew it, I grew up with it, they sang it at school or at home, but I would never play it on a mandolin. And after living several years in the United States, I started to miss it. And it really started like a new phase in my musical life to go back to the roots, you know. And I enjoyed it, and I followed it ever since, you know, both on the mandolin and then traditional Czech and Slovak instruments, which mandolin is a mandolin, it's Italian. But so the traditional woodwinds, you know, overtone flutes and stuff. But try to mix it with the bluegrass. You know, essentially, with Ondra, we found that there's some like type of mountain singing in Slovakia, which could refer to the singing in Malaysia and such. So I really enjoy it, and I agree with John. It's really good that if you give it your own personal mark, it feels good, you know. But then again, I think there are some people who are really born to maintain the tradition for, you know, for their own. That's how they sort of are built, and that's great too. There are keepers of them, but I'm more adventurous, and it feels really like a good place to be, to have the bluegrass, you know, in me. And certainly, I think even with Ondra, we listen to bluegrass, we play bluegrass at jam sessions, we teach it at music camps, but then when we play a concert, we rather, you know, offer something new, something more personal, something which we can relate more contemporary from our time period and such.
Right, and we have to mention, of course, your last record that you did, which was basically all about this, right? The Eastern Grass thing. Which I think it is really, is a great record where you make these connections. And also, I mean, I remember actually Ricky Skaggs wrote about this in his autobiography, that he did the transatlantic sessions and he played this song that actually you taught us last time, The Road to Spencer. And he tried to sound Irish, and then some of the Irish musicians he was playing with said, hey, that's exactly how we play it in some county over there. So there are those probably those incidental parallels that you're probably not even aware of. I don't know if you have something like that while you were making the Eastern Grass records, if you saw some of those connections. I don't know.
Well, it made us think about it. Ondra,
No, I don't think.
Yeah, I guess I came up with the concept that, you know, we wanted to have our first CD recording, and we also play other genres, you know, some classical, some Celtic, you know, some swing. But I thought bluegrass is the most common to us. That's what, you know, it's more dear to us. That's what we both started with, and that's how we met. So let's have the bluegrass there as the main theme, but also, since we are from sort of Eastern Europe, to have it connected to that and a combination. So we could have like a Western piece with some Eastern European instruments, and there's some English, there's some Czech language, some Slovak language. So it was the pieces which we pretty much already play at the shows, but we selected those which could qualify as a bluegrass and having some Eastern experience. So it was that, and in the process it was a lot of fun thinking about it, what to use there.
Right. Well, just to wrap it up, I think you were also, I think, Martino, you were named the Bluegrass ambassador at one point. Is that true?
No.
You were not?
No.
Oh, okay. So, but
No.
you did get the special prize for the Adiaha.
Yeah, they call it Distinguished Achievement Award,
Right.
which is like, you have done a good job in promoting the music in your area, geographic area of the interest. Basically, that's
Right.
it, yeah.
So, just like as last words for this, what do you think needs to be done in order to, keep the connections alive? Do you have anybody who would like to add something to this?
When playing music, it should be fun.
Yeah.
And if you have fun playing music, people listening, they do have fun too. So my first thing even when I go to a show, if the musicians are not, or to me they are not having fun, the music really doesn't come through like when maybe not as a good band, but showing fun on stage, having fun can communicate easier to the audience. So that doesn't mean that you don't have to be good and prepared on stage. I mean, you should deliver your show in the best possible way, but never forget to have fun while you're playing, because that's the key to communicate to your audience, I think.
And I guess that also translates in genres and areas best. Right.
There's a one problem which I see, because we're talking about the bluegrass and talking about another genre which actually is around us, because we're from different area. That's mean right now it's question if the bluegrass is able to stay alive in Europe as a genre, because all of us probably start to play something differently, because we're thinking like for me, I don't have around me players which probably would like to really play the strong hard drive bluegrass. That's mean I also start thinking what I can do with my banjo and still be a banjo player and have fun and enjoy music. That's mean the question is what is the future for bluegrass, and of course we can do whatever we want it, because we are, like because I hope we are musicians which understand the instrument, but the question is if the bluegrass is strong enough to stay alive in Europe, especially not US. There is 4 years kids, all kids which really can kill us.
I've got two thoughts on that. One thing I always, especially not coming from Kentucky, I'd say bluegrass is a broad umbrella that fits many different but also similar styles. I think we all would agree that it can be a broad umbrella for many different variations of that style. The instrumentation will be similar, but the way it's delivered could be very, very different. And if you had that broad approach, I think that keeps it going, even if you venture into territory that's far from the traditional stuff. And also, a second thought, for me, many times it happens when you think something is just about to die out. Some younger people will discover it and rekindle the spirit and bring it to life again, like it happened with old-time music. Old-time music has seen a revival, actually. And also people took that style of playing and turned it into something of their own. And I think that maybe this should be for the people who are not from Kentucky, that should be the approach that we can attempt, and that's the way we can bring something to the style.
I think we can go on in all different directions from here, and but I thank you very much for taking the time and talking, and I hope we can keep this conversation going. As I said, there's a lot of other stuff to be talked about. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Michael.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.